Today on eNCA, and the countdown has very much begun. Government is calling for calm as South Africans continue mobilising for a national shutdown on Friday. Why? Because the frustration of these ongoing blackouts is boiling over and the many promises to end them. None of them seem to have come right. Well, let's find out about this shutdown, joined by advocate Tseliso Thipanyane from the South African Institute for Responsive and Accountable Governance. Advocate, good to have you with us. I appreciate your time on eNCA. Is a shutdown, a national shutdown, a mass protest the way to go, do you think? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You know, other than holding of elections where people can then choose who they want to, the right to petition, demonstrate, march, is a constitutional right which people have in order to express their happiness or unhappiness with government. And I think with the current developments now around ESCOM, lack of poverty, unemployment, many potholes in our roads, people are really getting fed up. So people have the right to demonstrate, petition, but they should do so peacefully and without being armed. So one is not surprised about the calls for shutdowns, demonstrations. And I think government must come to the party and really explain to South Africans exactly what is going on and what are the solutions. Because really people are having a major impact due to load shedding. Small business people are suffering. Those who are going to school are also suffering. So a lot really has to be done, and government has to explain. Failing which, definitely we'll see an increase of this protest, and no one knows exactly how they will end up.
It's sad, isn't it, Advocate, that in South Africa, and you're aware of this, I'm sure you've seen many interviews on various channels where we interview people who are protesting, who say they've done exactly what you say. They followed the regulations, they followed the rules, they tried to meet with the right people, and in the end, the only way to get the attention they want is to turn violent. By no means endorsing violent protest, but I think South Africans feel that a peaceful protest don't work. Government ignores them. What would you say to that?
It is quite unfortunate. You know, our constitution actually provides for a responsive and accountable governance. And there should be no arrogance of those in power. We're here to serve the public, and if we're not doing things properly, we must be held to account. So yes, there have been many protests in our country. People are complaining that nobody ever listens to them. That's why people have to resort to violence sometimes. And one hopes that government will really, for a change, take heed of these concerns and do something, because there is no way one can avoid the issues of ESCOM. It's a reality. It's affecting all of us, and people expect government to deliver and address the problems. So if there is no such resolution, definitely most South Africans will take to the streets, unfortunately.
You led me there very nicely. I was going to go there anyway, Advocate. Do you think our government is arrogant?
There's definitely an arrogance of power. Local government is collapsing. There are potholes. Children don't have enough schools. Crime is high. And of course, it's now ESCOM. And clearly, these issues are not new. It's not like they happened today. They've been over for the last 15 years or so, the problem of ESCOM. And one does not see much solution coming from government in this regard. So one can explain, is either government is incapable of running the government, or there's a general lack of arrogance where you really don't give a damn about what people are concerned about. And therefore you forget your role. You are here to serve the people. You stand up and say, please vote for me. I'll deliver A, B, C, D. And if you can't, step aside or at least deliver. That's what I would then term as arrogance of power. People have forgotten that they're here to serve the public in this country.
Do you think, and I don't want to necessarily get into the politics of this as well, but of course we have a national election next year as well. Do you, Advocates, start to get a sense that if we're not seeing accountable and responsive governance, then governance has to change? Do you think next year could be the precipice that the ANC government gets pushed over?
There will definitely be some change. I mean, people have the right to elect a government, and they have to elect people whom they have confidence in. And once they lose that confidence, then government comes and goes. It happens all over the world. That's what democracy is all about. Government for the people, by the people, and for the people. And if you can't play that role, then you should step aside. People should also elect you out of power. Vote you out of power, if they feel that it's their right, that democratic right to elect whoever they want to in power. So if they're not happy with the current government, it's their right to say thank you.
Let me ask you this in closing, Advocate, because you're right. Once you get around to elections, and we have seen changes at a local government level, to some degree at a national level, we've seen more players coming in. When we are not happy with our government and our elected politicians to the highest offices of the country, even if the country were to say, we're not happy with you, we want you to step away, whether it's a peaceful protest, a violent protest, a referendum, whatever you want to call it, and these politicians simply refuse to get out the way, what does South Africans then do if they're not getting it right?
Yeah. Well, there are three ways, really. It's either we vote or we petition until people hear, or thirdly, and most unfortunately, we have the Arab Spring, where people will say now government must fall, even without going through elections. That will be very unfortunate. And the government really has to make sure that we don't get to that stage following the Arab Spring solution.
Well, Advocate, I appreciate your time in joining us here on today. Fascinating discussion. I was so interested to hear, especially the last part where there are three options as well. I think it's one of the clearer answers I've ever gotten on what are the options for us as South Africans. So, Advocate, I thank you very much indeed for your time. Advocate Tseliso Thipanyane joining us today. He speaks on behalf of the organisation Taking a Look, and it's the Institute for Responsive and Accountable Governance here on eNCA. As we're heading